Gamma-ray bursts. Somewhere, far beyond what your eyes can see, stars are dying in silence, collapsing under their own weight, and in their final moments, some of them do not go quietly. They explode with a force so extreme, so concentrated, that they send out beams of pure gamma radiation, narrow as a needle, hot as creation itself, slicing across the universe like invisible blades of light. These are gamma-ray bursts. Not bursts like fireworks, but bursts like execution. Sudden, short, precise, and absolute. Traveling through the darkness at the speed of light, and if even one were to strike your planet, it would erase your atmosphere in seconds, boil your oceans, sterilize your world, and leave behind only a scorched rock spinning silently through space. You would not see it coming. You would not have time to run. You would not even know you were dying. And the worst part is that these events are not rare. They are always happening, all across the universe, unstoppable, uncaring, and perfectly timed to miss you, until they don't. Vacuum decay. You live your life trusting that the world beneath your feet is stable, that the laws of physics, the forces of nature, the very fabric of existence will hold long enough for you to dream, to love, to die. But buried inside the equations of the universe is a quiet, merciless possibility that what you call reality is not the most stable state, but only a fragile, temporary configuration perched above a deeper, truer vacuum that could, at any moment, tear everything you know to pieces without warning, without pain, without even the dignity of a struggle. If vacuum decay begins, it will not be with a storm or an explosion. It will be with a single point, smaller than an atom, where the true vacuum is born, expanding outward at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics, the structure of matter, the very rules of existence itself. And as the bubble swallows everything, there will be no warning, no fear, no awareness, just the total and instant annihilation of everything you have ever touched, thought, loved, or been. You will not scream. You will not mourn. You will simply be unmade, so quickly and so utterly that even the ghost of your existence will vanish from the timeline, as if you had never drawn breath, as if nothing had ever drawn breath at all. Magnetars. You look at the stars, and you think you understand power, the burning of suns, the death throes of giants. But hidden among them are things more monstrous, more brutal, more absolute than anything you were ever meant to survive. Stars that collapsed into objects smaller than a city, but with magnetic fields so strong they could tear the electrons from your atoms, unraveling the very structure of matter with a force so total that even light itself cannot escape without being twisted and broken. These are the Magnetars, the silent executioners of the cosmos, spinning their magnetic death fields through the void, invisible, unstoppable, and so dense that a single teaspoon of their matter would weigh more than a mountain, a place where physics itself strains and groans under the sheer violence of existence pushed to its final edge. You could be 1,000,000 kilometers away and still die instantly if you crossed their invisible reach, your body not burned, not crushed, but torn apart at the level of your atoms, your very being erased not by a blade, not by a bomb, but by the silent, indifferent pull of pure, raw force. Blazar death rays. At the center of galaxies, where gravity twists space and time into spirals of chaos, there are supermassive black holes so large, so hungry, that they devour everything around them. Stars, planets, clouds of gas, grinding them down into pure energy, until all of it is funneled into thin, focused jets that erupt outward from their poles, shooting into the dark at nearly the speed of light. These are blazars, black holes caught in the act of feeding so violently that their jets become cosmic death rays. And if one happens to be aimed directly at you across the universe, the distance does not matter, because the energy they unleash will not fade kindly with time. it will arrive sharp and merciless, carrying enough power to vaporize planets, boil entire solar systems, and strip galaxies clean of life in a beam no wider than a city. There would be no moment of awe, no beautiful sky, no time to say goodbye. The death would arrive before light could warn you, before your nerves could register the pain, before your world even knew it had been chosen. And the worst part is simple. They do not aim. They do not think. They do not hate. They exist, and the universe spins, and if the math happens to place you in the path of their hunger, then you were already dead long before the beam arrived. Phantom energy. You were told the universe would fade slowly, that stars would burn out, that galaxies would drift quietly into the cold night. But hidden deep inside the terrifying possibility of phantom energy is a far darker ending, one where expansion does not slow or gently quiet down, but accelerates forever, faster and faster, until even the very concept of distance, of togetherness, of matter itself begins to unravel. At first, galaxies will vanish from each other's view, receding so quickly that no light will ever bridge the gaps again, but it will not stop there. Eventually, star systems will fall apart, planets will drift free from dying suns, and long after life has disappeared, the universe will still be stretching, still tearing. But even then, it will not stop. The expansion will come for molecules, for atoms, for the glue that binds matter together, until the very particles that form reality are ripped apart, and space itself becomes a meaningless, broken void of total separation, where nothing can exist because nothing can hold itself together anymore. You will not see it. You will not feel it. You will simply fall apart, not with fire or ice, but in total silence, as if reality itself simply forgot how to keep you whole. Cannibalistic galaxies. You look at the galaxies scattered across the void and imagine them as distant islands of peace, each glowing quietly in its own corner of eternity. But space is not peaceful, and galaxies are not gentle giants drifting alone. They are predators, drawn together by gravity's slow and ruthless hand, destined to collide, merge, and consume until only the strongest or luckiest survive. These are cannibalistic galaxies, titanic structures filled with billions of stars, crashing together in slow-motion violence that stretches across hundreds of millions of years, grinding entire civilizations, entire suns, into dust as they pull each other apart and stitch the ruins into something new and monstrous. When galaxies meet, they do not pass like ships in the night. They shred each other, tidal forces tearing stars from their homes, devouring smaller neighbors whole, leaving trails of stellar wreckage stretching for light years like bones picked clean by ancient predators. And in the end, the victorious galaxy is not whole, it is not pure. It is a patchwork of what it has eaten, a graveyard and a throne woven together, doomed to continue drifting through the dark until it too is devoured. Because in the cold logic of the cosmos, even the biggest are just meat for something bigger. Quantum immortality. You live believing that death will one day come for you, clean and final, a silence that will end your suffering and your fear. But hidden inside the equations of quantum mechanics is a far more horrifying possibility. That at every moment where death should take you, reality splits, and somewhere, somehow, in some branch you survive, staggering forward into a new world where the bullet misses, where the car brakes just in time, where the disease never quite kills you. You will never experience death, not because you are invincible, but because your consciousness will always slip into the thread where you somehow survive, where you somehow endure, no matter how broken, how crippled, how shattered you become, dragged endlessly across realities that care nothing for your pain. Each survival more improbable, more desperate, more hollow than the last. And while the people you love vanish into the dark, while the worlds you recognize fall away, You are left clinging to a flickering, weakening awareness, living through survival after survival, unable to die, unable to escape, cursed not with immortality of the body, but immortality of the mind, trapped inside an endless sequence of accidents, tragedies, and slow dissolutions with no hope of release. Boltzmann Brain. You believe you were born into a vast ancient world, that you have parents, a history, a future stitched into the fabric of time. But buried deep within the laws of thermodynamics is a silent, unbearable possibility, that it is far more likely for a single consciousness, complete with false memories, false surroundings, false hopes, to spontaneously arise by pure random chance in a field of chaos, than for an entire orderly universe to exist as the stage for your tiny life. You might not be standing on a planet. You might not be moving through time. You might be a brief flicker of awareness, a Boltzmann brain, suspended in the void, dreaming that you have lived a life, loving people who were never real, fearing a death that will never truly come because you never truly lived in the first place. And if this is true, if you are not a mind carried by a body through a universe, but a hallucination floating alone inside the silence of infinite entropy, then every memory you cling to, every rule you trust, every face you believe you know is nothing but a fragile, meaningless ripple in the endless madness of disorder. Great silence. You look up at the stars and you imagine company. You imagine ancient civilizations burning with thought and fire. You imagine that somewhere out there, intelligence stirs in the endless black. But the deeper you listen, the more crushing the silence becomes, and you begin to realize that the most terrifying possibility is not that we are late to the cosmic party, but that there was never a party at all. The stars wheel overhead by the billions, the galaxies spiral and collide, the light stretches and fades across distances too vast for any mind to hold. And yet in all of it, in all the screaming emptiness of the heavens, there is no signal, no answer, no sign that anything has ever looked back at us, no echo of thought, no ghost of civilization, only the cold, eternal hum of a universe that may never have given birth to another voice. And as the silence deepens, as the years pass and the void remains empty, you are left standing in the horrifying possibility that life is not rare but impossible, that consciousness is not inevitable but a freak accident, and that you and your fragile species, may be the first and the last desperate flicker of awareness in an otherwise unbroken ocean of darkness. Heat, death. You live your life under the warmth of a sun, on a world where things move, where things grow, where hope seems to renew itself with every morning. But all of this, all energy, all movement, all life is burning through a finite store of order, a limited reservoir of possibility that drains away with every passing second, until the stars blink out one by one, the galaxies stretch too thin to touch, and every last flicker of warmth is swallowed by an endless, featureless cold. There will be no great cataclysm, no final explosion to mark the end, only the slow, inevitable exhaustion of everything that can change, everything that can dream, everything that can even know it once existed, until the universe becomes a graveyard without headstones, a frozen, silent expanse where no voice can rise, no memory can endure, and no spark of awareness can even flicker to recognize how complete the silence has become. And when that final cold spreads through the last ruined atoms, when time itself becomes meaningless because nothing remains to change, nothing remains to measure, the story of the universe will not end with a roar or a scream. It will simply fade, quietly and utterly, into a stillness so perfect that even the idea of existence will be nothing more than a forgotten dream. Zombie stars. You look at the night sky and you see stars burning clean and bright, painting the darkness with promises of life and energy. But hidden among those distant fires are corpses, stellar remnants that should have collapsed into silence long ago. And yet, through processes too violent, too strange for ordinary imagination, they rise again, feeding on nearby stars, pulling fresh matter into their broken bodies, reigniting into twisted undead versions of themselves. These are the zombie stars, white dwarfs devouring companions, cannibalizing the light around them until they burst back into a perverse, furious life, shining not with the energy of natural creation, but with the stolen fuel of other dying worlds, a second, corrupted blaze bought with the death of something else. And when they rise, they do not heal the cosmos or bring new life. They flare monstrously, destroying everything around them, ripping apart the sky, leaving behind only deeper wreckage, colder ruins, the heavy silence of a violence that should never have happened, a final burst of light meant not to illuminate, but to erase. Dark energy. You look up at the stars and you think the universe is vast but calm, a still ocean of light drifting outward. But hidden behind the slow, silent movements of galaxies is a force that does not drift, does not dream, does not even know you exist, a force accelerating everything outward faster and faster, ripping apart clusters of stars, stretching the fabric of reality thinner and thinner, until even the memory of what once was will be swallowed by endless cold and separation. Dark energy is not a storm, not an explosion. It is a constant, quiet hunger built into the bones of the universe itself. A repulsive force so faint that you cannot feel it, yet so relentless that it will one day scatter galaxies across an infinite blackness so wide and so empty that no new stars will ever form, no new worlds will ever rise, and every flame of thought and memory will be sealed into isolated prisons of space, too far to ever touch again. And when the last light fades, when the last whisper of warmth dies, when the last voice drowns in the vacuum between dead stars, dark energy will still be there, pulling everything apart, further and further, dragging the universe toward a future so empty that even the word empty will have lost its meaning. Fermi Paradox. You look at the stars and you know, mathematically, statistically, inevitably, that life should have risen everywhere. Civilizations should be reaching out across the galaxies, filling the void with songs and signals and monuments that no silence could ever bury. And yet, when we listen, when we search, when we beg the sky to answer, all we find is an empty blackness stretching in every direction, a silence so complete that it becomes its own kind of scream. If life is common, then where are the builders, the dreamers, the travelers? If intelligence blooms easily, why does every star hang cold and untouched? Why does every signal fall into static? Why has no great empire left even a single echo for us to find? And buried inside the silence is a deeper terror. The thought that maybe civilizations rise, but are crushed before they can ever speak across the stars. That maybe intelligence is not a triumph, but a brief spark. A fatal mutation that dooms every species that touches it to self-destruction before it can reach beyond its own fragile world. Or worse still, that there was never anyone else. That life itself is a freak accident so rare that it bloomed once, here, and never again, leaving us as the only scream in a universe that does not know how to answer, a single fragile voice echoing across a vastness that has been empty since the beginning and will remain empty forever. Cosmic voids. When you imagine the universe, you picture galaxies spinning in oceans of light, worlds born in the fires of stars, life blooming wherever there is time and warmth enough to dream. But the deeper we look, the more terrifying the truth becomes, that between the bright islands of galaxies lie stretches of pure darkness, vast cosmic voids so huge, so empty, that entire clusters of galaxies could vanish inside them without leaving a ripple. In these voids, there are no stars, no planets, no warmth, no echoes of life or light, only the slow, endless drift of particles across distances so vast that even light itself becomes a dying whisper swallowed by the silence, and whatever loneliness you have ever felt on your tiny world is nothing compared to the ancient, perfect emptiness that hangs between the scattered flickers of creation. You are not living in a full universe. You are clinging to one of the rare patches of light between gulfs of absence so deep that if you could stand on their edge and look across, you would see nothing at all. No horizon, no border, only an endless stretch of cold that has never been touched by a dream or a voice or a soul. Relativistic jets, at the heart of collapsed stars and supermassive black holes, hidden deep in the cold engines of dead suns, there are moments when all the stored rage of gravity and matter erupts in narrow, blinding streams of plasma, firing outward at nearly the speed of light. Not a slow burn, not a wave of destruction, but a razor of pure death so fast, so focused, so violent that anything caught in its path is annihilated before it even has time to scream. These are relativistic jets, the universe's most violent weapons, bursts of radiation and particles so powerful that they can cut through hundreds of thousands of light years of space, vaporizing planets, sterilizing entire star systems, stripping the very structure of matter into nothingness as they tear blindly through the dark. You could be standing on a peaceful world, orbiting a peaceful sun, 100 light years away from the dying scream of a star. And still, in a single moment without warning, a jet could tear across your sky, bleaching the atmosphere, boiling the oceans, burning your world clean of life so quickly that your death would be over before you ever knew what had arrived. Lost information hypothesis. You live believing that information is eternal, that somewhere, somehow, the things you build, the things you think, the things you feel leave traces, echoes, fingerprints carved into the structure of reality. But hidden deep inside the mathematics of black holes and the death of stars is a darker idea. That information can be lost, not just hidden or scattered, but burned away so perfectly that even the raw fact of its existence vanishes from the universe without a trace. Imagine it. Entire histories, entire civilizations, entire souls swallowed by collapse, crushed into singularities, shredded into oblivion by forces so absolute that no particle, no law, no ghost remains to whisper what was once here. Not a ruin, not a scar, not even a silent memory floating in the void. You tell yourself that even if you die, your life ripples outward into memory, into consequence. But if the lost information hypothesis is true, then the universe itself forgets, not just you, but that you ever were, and every thought you had, every love you held, every dream you built collapses into a silence more perfect than death, a deletion so deep that not even the future will remember that anything was missing. Strange matter, deep within the death throes of collapsing stars, there may form something unspeakably alien, something not content with protons and neutrons and atoms as you know them, a form of matter so stable, so deeply bound, that it becomes dangerous not through violence, but through contamination. This is strange matter, a substance so perfect in its binding that anything it touches becomes like it, not through choice or explosion, but through quiet and unstoppable conversion, turning ordinary matter, your flesh, your planet, your entire world, into itself, spreading like a cold and patient infection through the universe. If even a fragment of it touched the Earth, it would not need to attack. It would not need to conquer. It would simply exist, and by existing, it would convert every atom it touched, spreading faster than fire, faster than thought, until your entire world was transformed into dead, silent, strange matter, utterly alien, perfectly stable, and horrifyingly indifferent. And the most terrifying part is that strange matter, once formed, could last forever, drifting cold and silent through space, untouchable and unstoppable, turning all it encounters into more of itself, until the universe is nothing but endless oceans of perfect, dead sameness. False vacuum. Everything you know, Everything you are, everything that has ever lived or burned or dreamed exists inside a reality held together by invisible laws. But those laws are not guaranteed, they are not final, and hidden deep beneath them is the terrifying possibility that what you call the vacuum, the very ground of existence, is not the lowest state it could be, but a false minimum. A fragile, temporary state balanced on the edge of annihilation. If somewhere, anywhere, even the smallest speck of space were to stumble into the true vacuum, the real ground state, infinitely lower, infinitely more stable, it would spread like wildfire, a bubble of death devouring space itself, rewriting the rules of physics as it expands at the speed of light, erasing atoms, stars, galaxies, and every living thing before they even had time to understand they had been erased. There would be no escape, no warning, no after. You would not feel pain, you would not see terror, you would simply vanish, unmade so completely that even the idea of you would be meaningless in the new, cold physics of a universe that has rewritten itself. Spaghettification. You think of falling into a black hole as sudden, a plunge into oblivion. But reality is far crueler, because if you cross the invisible line where escape becomes impossible, death would not come all at once. It would come through the slow and perfect humiliation of your very structure. This is spaghettification, where gravity does not simply pull, it stretches with such unbearable force that the atoms in your body, and the bonds that hold them, and the very molecules that define what you are pulled further and further apart. Your feet tugged faster than your head, your organs unraveling into thin streams, your nerves stretched beyond sensation until you become something long, thin, and horrifyingly alien. You would not scream. You would not feel pain in the way you know it. You would simply stretch into silence, your consciousness warped until even thought unravels, until even you become a thread of meaningless matter spiraling into the event horizon. And then, mercifully, there would be nothing. But long before that, there would be you, stretched thinner than memory, a ghost dragged through forces the mind was never meant to face. Big Rip. You believe that expansion is gentle, that the universe will grow cold and quiet in the distant future, leaving empty darkness and forgotten stars. But hidden in the equations is a far crueler possibility, where dark energy does not slow down, but accelerates forever, growing stronger and stronger until it turns from silent expansion into violent annihilation. This is the Big Rip, when the universe's own fabric stretches so fiercely that it first tears apart distant galaxies, pulling them away until their light will never reach each other again, leaving only isolated islands of dying suns adrift in black seas of nothingness. But it will not stop there. Gravity itself will fall next. Galaxies will shred into stars. Stars will tear from their planets. And planets will break into dust. But even that dust will find no mercy, because the pull will keep growing until molecules collapse, atoms fracture, and finally, even the particles that make up reality itself will be ripped apart in the last, unstoppable instant. You will not witness it. You will not have time to scream. You will simply cease, not fade, not die, but be torn into absolute nothingness, along with every thought, every dream, every echo of what once was. The information paradox. You are taught to believe that nothing is ever truly lost, that even when things are destroyed, when stars collapse, when people die, when matter falls into oblivion, the information of what once was lingers somewhere, hidden in the subtle patterns of the universe, waiting to be found, waiting to be read. But black holes break that promise. When they devour, they do not preserve, they erase. They pull in light, form, matter, history, and according to some terrifying calculations, what falls past the event horizon is not archived or remembered, but destroyed, leaving no trace, no record, no ghost of what it once was, until even the very idea of its existence fades. This is the information paradox, the unbearable question of whether black holes violate the deepest laws of the universe, breaking the rule that information must always be conserved, swallowing entire stories, galaxies, civilizations, souls, into an oblivion so complete that even the future will never know they were there. If this is true, then the universe does not keep perfect records. Then the story of existence itself is full of holes. Then you too may one day vanish so absolutely that not even the void will remember you ever were. Black hole, evaporation. You believe black holes are eternal, cosmic tyrants devouring stars, ruling the dark with hunger that will never be satisfied. But the universe is patient, and even the strongest cannot escape the slow erosion of time. Through Hawking radiation, they do not collapse in violence or burst in fury. They simply leak, particle by particle, bleeding their mass into the void across unimaginable eons, growing smaller and weaker until what once crushed galaxies become smaller than mountains, then smaller than dust, then smaller than light itself. No one will witness their death. No one will remember their hunger. No one will be left to speak their names. When the last black hole evaporates, it will not be greeted. It will not rage. It will vanish into silence so perfect that even the universe itself will feel emptier for having once carried its shadow. And with that last faint release of heat, the final trace of what was will dissolve. The last devourer, undone not by force or challenge, but by the soft, unstoppable pull of endless time, leaving nothing. Eternal oblivion. You fear death because you think it is separation, the soul leaving the body, the mind slipping away, a quiet journey into darkness. But darkness can be imagined, separation can be mourned, and emptiness still leaves space for echoes. But this is not death. This is not fading. This is eternal oblivion, the final, irreversible annihilation where nothing survives, not the atoms of your body, not the patterns of your mind, not the whispers of your dreams, and not even the idea that you once existed at all. No afterlife, no rebirth, no cosmic memory lovingly holding your name in the stars. Only the truth that in the end, there will come a moment when the last thing that remembers you, your world, your sky, your universe, dies too. And when that moment arrives, you will not be dead, because death implies something remains to say you are gone. You will be erased so thoroughly that even the void will not recall the shape you once carved into its silence. Multiverse collisions. You picture the universe as vast, endless, the final stage where all things play out and fade. But hidden behind every star, beyond every boundary of space and time, there may be others, countless others, entire universes sealed away, each with its own laws, its own history, its own fragile dreams, floating quietly in a higher ocean of existence where nothing is ever truly safe. Because when the fabric between them weakens, when one universe drifts too close to another, they do not greet each other with wonder or mercy. They collide, and when they do, everything inside them is torn apart in silence so absolute that not even the ruins are left behind. This is multiverse collisions, when entire realities, each holding their own versions of life, of history, of meaning, smash together like glass spheres in the dark, shattering worlds, erasing timelines, destroying souls in ways so complete that it is not death, but unexistence. In these collisions, you would not survive. Your universe would not survive. Even the idea that your universe had ever existed would dissolve like breath against a hurricane that tears apart the very laws of possibility. This is not war. This is not revenge. This is the terrible truth that even universes can be fragile, and when they drift too close to something bigger, colder, or simply indifferent, they are devoured without thought, and without memory. The Great Attractor. You imagine galaxies drifting freely through space, carried by the gentle expansion of the universe, but hidden in the darkness, beyond the maps and charts of everything you know, there is a deeper movement, a pull so massive and mysterious that even superclusters, filled with trillions of stars, are quietly obeying its invisible demand. This is the Great Attractor, a force so vast and so utterly unknown that entire regions of the universe, including our own galaxy, are moving relentlessly toward it, drawn by a gravity no eye can see and no mind can yet comprehend. You cannot look at it directly, because it lies behind the thick veil of the zone of avoidance, hidden by dust, blocked by the plane of the Milky Way, as if reality itself is trying to conceal the face of whatever monster sleeps there. And yet the movement is real. Galaxies do not drift toward it casually. They are falling toward it, millions of them, silently, obediently, rushing toward a destination that no living being has ever seen and no dead one has ever returned from. This is not curiosity. This is not invitation. This is gravity on a scale so terrifyingly large that it reduces entire galaxies to dust motes, swirling toward the mouth of something ancient and possibly eternal. Dark Forest Hypothesis. You look into the night sky and wonder why, in all its vastness, you hear nothing back. No voices, no signals, no signs of civilizations calling out across the void. But hidden inside that silence may be the most terrifying answer of all. That the universe is not empty. It is a dark forest. And in this forest, every civilization is a hunter, cautious, ruthless, afraid, knowing that any light, any sound, any sign of their existence might be the invitation for instant destruction. Because out there, beyond the stars, other minds may wait. Minds you cannot understand, driven by fears and instincts alien to you. And if they hear you before you hear them, they may not answer with friendship or curiosity, but with weapons that erase your world before you ever knew they were watching. In the dark forest, to reveal yourself is to die. To speak is to risk being silenced forever. And so they do what you do now. They say nothing. They hide. They survive by not being found. Olbers Paradox. You gaze up at the sky and find comfort in the stars scattered thinly across the void, believing that night means rest, that darkness means emptiness. But if the universe were truly infinite, eternal, and filled with endless stars, the sky should burn with endless light, glowing from every direction, leaving no place for shadows or silence. But it does not. The night is black. The stars are few. The cold between them is vast. And this is the paradox. Because the absence of light is not peace, and the darkness overhead is not proof of safety, but evidence of something much worse. That countless stars have already died, their light swallowed by time, distance, dust, or collapse, and that even more never had the chance to shine at all. You are not bathed in the soft glow of infinite creation. You are surrounded by the graves of suns that no longer exist, staring into the void left by lifeless galaxies and horizons that recede faster than light can bridge the gaps between them. The darkness is not empty. It is filled with absence. It is a memorial to all that has already vanished. Supermassive black holes. You imagine galaxies as graceful spirals, glowing with life and drifting quietly through space, but hidden deep within each of them, in the very place where gravity gathers everything most closely, there waits something far more ancient and merciless. A supermassive black hole, so vast, so impossibly heavy, that not even light dares to escape its grasp. These are not ordinary black holes, they are leviathans, weighing millions or even billions of times more than entire stars, bending space and time into twisted wells where anything that crosses too close is lost forever, stretched and shredded beyond recognition, reduced to nothing but silent, devoured memory. Galaxies orbit them not because they want to, but because they must, locked in endless submission to a force that does not create, does not nurture, but only holds and consumes. Sometimes they sleep quietly. Sometimes they awaken, and when they feed, they tear apart stars, rip gas clouds into luminous agony, and burn brighter than whole galaxies as they grow fatter, hungrier, colder. And yet, no matter how monstrous they become, they remain hidden, invisible kings ruling silently from the shadows of their empires, knowing that time is on their side, and that eventually everything will fall toward them. Hidden dimensions. You live inside 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, moving forward, backward, left, right, up and down, trusting that what you experience is the entirety of existence, but hidden inside the equations of physics, in the cold language that describes forces and particles, there lurks a deeper possibility, that reality does not stop at what you can perceive. These are hidden dimensions, not realms of fantasy or gods, but unseen directions folded tightly into the very fabric of space, curled smaller than atoms, unreachable by light, untouched by thought, and yet silently shaping everything you have ever known, from gravity to the birth of universes. You cannot see them. You cannot enter them. You only know they might exist because reality behaves like something is whispering behind the walls of the visible world. Something silent, something vast, something patient. If they are real, they are not waiting to be discovered. They do not care about you, or life, or meaning. They have always been there. Cold, hidden chambers that twist and bind the universe into shapes your mind was never built to understand. Extinct alien civilizations. You stare into the night sky and wonder why no one speaks back. Why no signals arrive? Why no ruins are seen? Why no evidence of other minds breaks through the void? But hidden beneath the stillness may be the simplest and darkest answer. They were here, but they are gone. Not in stories, not in legend, not in dreams. Gone in the way that abandoned cities crumble, that bones turn to dust, that memories fade until even silence forgets what once filled the air. These are extinct alien civilizations, not visitors who never came, but distant beings who built, thrived, suffered, and reached for the stars, only to vanish into history so absolute that even their ruins have been erased by time, swallowed by entropy, scattered across a cosmos that does not care who came before. They may have burned themselves away in wars, or starved in the cold silence of dying worlds, or waited too long for salvation that never arrived. Or perhaps they simply fell to the same quiet, patient forces that will one day erase everything you know. Decay, collapse, and the slow, merciless indifference of the universe. Space expanding, faster than light. You imagine the universe as endless but reachable, a place where, given enough time, the light of distant stars will eventually arrive, where journeys to the edge might someday be possible, and where separation is only temporary. But this is not how the universe works. Beyond a certain distance, reality itself is stretching so fast that even light, the fastest thing there is, cannot keep up. Space between galaxies expands faster than light can cross it, pulling them away from you, from us, from each other, forever. You will never see those galaxies again. Their light will never arrive. They are not drifting. They are fleeing at speeds reality itself cannot bridge, vanishing not into distance, but into unreachability. And as time passes, more and more of the universe will slip beyond this cosmic horizon, until the night sky itself grows empty, until only a handful of nearby stars remain, and finally, until even they too fade into the unreachable silence. Proton decay. You believe that matter is eternal, that while stars burn out and galaxies fade, the particles that make up your body, your world, and everything you know will remain cold and silent, but still there, untouched by the death of larger things. But the universe does not offer such mercy. Hidden in the cold mathematics of physics is the quiet, horrifying possibility of proton decay. The idea that even the most stable particles, the protons inside every atom, inside every breath you take, are doomed to break down, to dissolve into radiation after inconceivably vast stretches of time. It will not be violent, it will not be fast, it will be patient, unstoppable erosion. The atoms of your body, the walls of your world, the rocks and dust and stars, all slowly disintegrating into nothing but faint, useless energy spread thinly across a universe that no longer cares. And when that time comes, there will be no structure left, no matter to hold, no worlds to remember, no remnants of all that life once built, only endless emptiness as the universe forgets even the idea of form itself. Moon drifting away. You look at the moon and believe it will always be there, hanging quietly in the night sky, steady, constant, a soft reminder of home and history. But beneath its calm glow is a cold, quiet truth that no one feels, yet everyone is subject to. The moon is leaving you. Slowly, but relentlessly, it drifts farther and farther from Earth, pulled by the tides it once ruled, moving away by centimeters each year, invisible to the naked eye, but unstoppable, inevitable, eternal in its retreat. You do not notice, you do not feel it. But with every passing year, the bond weakens. Tides soften, eclipses shift, the days grow longer, and the ancient dance that shaped life itself unravels in silence. And long after your species is gone, long after your cities collapse into dust, the moon will continue drifting, step by step, until it breaks free completely, leaving the Earth behind forever, cold and alone, its closest companion reduced to a faint point of light fading into the dark. Neutrino ghost storm. You believe yourself to be solid, protected by walls, wrapped in flesh, hidden in the comfort of your ordinary world. But passing through you at this very moment are countless invisible invaders, particles so small, so indifferent, that they move through planets, stars, and bodies as if they were never there at all. These are neutrinos, ghostly fragments born in the hearts of stars and the death cries of the universe, slipping effortlessly through matter, ignoring everything that tries to stop them. Billions passing through every inch of your body every second. Unnoticed, unstoppable, eternal. You do not feel them, you do not see them, but they are there, raining down from space, rising up from the earth, filling every room, every cell, every breath, turning the entire universe into a silent and endless storm of passing ghosts. And when stars die, and galaxies collapse, and the last flickers of light fade into blackness, the neutrinos will still be there, drifting forever, untouched by decay, unburdened by memory, moving through a universe that has long since forgotten why anything ever mattered at all. Universe already gone. You move through the world believing the universe is still here, solid, active, alive, stars burning in distant skies, galaxies drifting through expanding space, life quietly unfolding on scattered worlds. But deep inside the rules of physics and the terrifying coldness of time itself hides the possibility that the universe's ending is not something coming for you. It already happened. Because light moves slow. Information travels slow. Reality itself lags behind its own death. And what you see, the glowing stars above, the humming energy around you, the soft rhythm of your own breath, may all be nothing more than the last flickering images in a collapsing system that has already burned out, already frozen, already vanished into a state beyond decay. You would not know. You could not know. Because when the signal stops, there is no voice left to say so. Last star will die, alone in silence. For now, the universe still glows. Stars still burn quietly across the void, fighting against the cold with their fragile fires, tiny and defiant against the endless hunger of space. But their time is limited, their fuel finite, and they are dying, one by one, swallowed by black holes, collapsing into remnants, or simply cooling into faint embers lost in the dark. And when the very last star remains, it will not shine like a beacon. It will flicker weakly, its light stretched thin by distance and time, whispering across a universe that no longer listens. Because by then, galaxies will have unraveled, worlds will have crumbled, and no living thing will remain to turn toward the sky and wonder. That last star will burn in solitude, the last heartbeat in a body already cold, until finally, quietly, it too will fail, fading into blackness so total that even memory will have nothing to hold on to. There will be no audience, no grief, no echo, only a universe in which the final flame died, alone, swallowed not by violence or glory, but by the endless and merciless patience of silence. Simulation, reset, possibility. You build your life on the idea of stability, believing in cause and effect, in memories, in the future waiting patiently for you. But hidden inside the terrifying whispers of the simulation hypothesis is a thought that unravels all certainty. What if this is not reality at all, but a simulation, carefully calculated, quietly running, and more fragile than you dare to admit? What if you are nothing but data, a character moving through programmed routines, unaware that every rule you trust, gravity, time, even death, exists only because something greater allows it to? And worse still, what if it is not permanent? What if, beyond your reach and beyond your understanding, those running this simulation grow bored, or curious, or careless, and decide, without warning, to hit reset? In that instant, everything would vanish. Not just you, not just your world, but all history, all memory, every conversation, every dream, every tiny moment that you thought mattered, gone in a flash of deletion, as if none of it ever existed at all. There would be no last thought, no last breath, no final cry for help, only instant, total erasure, reality itself wiped clean, with not even dust left to mourn what was lost. Negative energy states. You move through the universe trusting its logic, believing that energy builds, that matter stands tall, and that emptiness simply means absence. But hidden in the terrifying edge of physics is the whisper of something darker. Negative energy states. Conditions so alien that they pull in, rather than push out, feeding on the fabric of reality, draining space, twisting time, and reducing what is into what should never be. You were taught that vacuum means zero, but negative energy is worse than nothing. It is a void beneath the void, a state where even light struggles, where matter could collapse, and where the laws that hold existence upright bend inward like rotting beams about to snap. It is not only theoretical. In quantum fields, in black holes, in fleeting, unstable moments, negative energy already flickers quietly, dangerous and unnatural, a crackling reminder that the universe permits horrors, because the rules you depend on are not sacred, only temporary. And if these states spread, if they grow beyond control, they could become regions where space itself caves in, where reality is devoured from the inside out, where existence unravels into cold, silent non-being. Hawking radiation, death. You think of black holes as eternal kings, unstoppable, immortal, devouring everything unlucky enough to stray too close, leaving behind only broken light and empty space. But time has no mercy, and hidden within the cold calculations of physics is a quiet prophecy. Black holes do not live forever. Slowly, silently, through a process called Hawking radiation, they leak away, particle by particle, their mass bleeding into space so gently that not even they seem to notice, shedding themselves into emptiness over spans of time that break the mind. Not in moments, not in centuries, not in billions of years, but across a darkness so endless that stars themselves will have long turned to dust. Galaxies will have unraveled into nothing, and every voice, every thought, and every dream will be extinct, long before the black holes even begin to grow weak. But they will grow weak, and they will shrink, and eventually, when nothing remains but their final breath, they will vanish, not in fury, not in glory, but in silence so perfect that even the idea they once ruled the cosmos will dissolve along with them. No witnesses, no survivors, no trace. Early uninhabitability of Earth. You walk the surface of Earth believing it was always meant for you. Blue skies, soft air, calm oceans, and land eager to cradle life. But the truth is far colder, far darker. This world was not made for you. In fact, for most of its existence, it wanted nothing more than to remain empty. There was a time when Earth burned endlessly, when the sky was choked with poisonous gases, when violent volcanic eruptions split the land without mercy, and when the oceans boiled under a sun that offered only searing radiation and death. There was no comfort, there was no shelter, there was no life, because life could not exist. Every atom of this planet's surface was hostile, every breath a death sentence, every second a reminder that nature does not build for you. It builds for itself, and only those who can endure its cruelty may someday call it home. And for billions of years, Earth endured alone, silent, violent, indifferent, until slowly, painfully, and without design, conditions softened just enough for simple life to carve out a desperate existence. And even then, survival was never guaranteed. This is early uninhabitability of Earth, not a forgotten age, but the brutal reminder that your home was once your executioner, and may someday become so again. Planck scale. Meaninglessness. You move through your life trusting the smoothness of existence, believing that space is solid and continuous, that time flows evenly forward, that everything is built from steady layers of order stacked gently upon each other. But hidden deep beneath atoms, far smaller than even protons or quarks, is a realm where none of these ideas survive. This is the Planck scale, the smallest scale of measurement imaginable, where distance itself breaks down, where space is no longer smooth but jagged, flickering, unstable, and where time does not flow, but stutters and fractures into meaningless fragments. Here, the rules of cause and effect dissolve. Here, particles blink in and out of existence without reason. Here, distance, direction, and even reality become words that no longer apply. And yet everything you know, everything you are, is built on this unspeakable chaos. Your atoms stitched together from particles that rest on a foundation not of logic, but of pure, indifferent quantum madness, where what is and what is not blur into one. You were never standing on solid ground. You were floating on something that was never meant to hold you. This is Planck scale meaninglessness, not emptiness, not silence, but the deeper horror that beneath the surface of reality is not truth, but noise, infinite and uncaring. The ultimate photon age. You believe in matter, solid, tangible, comforting, mountains that stand, stars that burn, bodies that endure through time. But nothing built from atoms will last forever. Gravity will unravel galaxies, black holes will evaporate into whispers, and protons themselves may decay until everything once heavy and warm is gone, leaving only one thing behind: light. But not the light you know, not sunlight, not the golden glow of life and fire. What remains will be ancient, exhausted photons, stretched thin by the endless expansion of space, so cold and weak they no longer warm, no longer illuminate, no longer serve any purpose at all. They will drift endlessly through a universe that no longer has a destination, spreading thinner and colder as time grows older than age itself, trapped in an existence with no more stars to reflect from, no more eyes to see, and no more matter to collide with. And they will continue, forever, not because they want to, not because they are free, but because nothing will be left to stop them. Probabilistic matter. You believe you are built from certainty, that your body is composed of solid matter, your mind grounded in reliable atoms stacked into molecules, everything around you held steady by rules too ancient to break. But at the smallest scales, beneath your skin, beneath the very laws you trust, lies the quiet, horrifying truth. Nothing is where it should be. Particles do not have precise positions. They do not exist as dots on a map, but as waves of probability, blurry and ghost-like, spread across space, only collapsing into something definite when forced to be seen. At any moment, every electron in your body is not in one place. It is probably in many, flickering in and out of potential, existing only as a possibility that is more likely here than there. You are not solid. You are not certain. You are a statistical arrangement, a brief winning lottery ticket in a game of infinite chances, where every second, reality rolls the dice to see if you will hold together, and somehow, so far, you have. But this will not last forever. Probabilities shift. Eventually, the balance tips, and the patterns that pretend to be you will scatter again, swallowed back into the endless storm of maybe and maybe not, leaving behind no body, no mind, and no trace.